Have you ever imagined being lost in the middle of a vast desert, the sun burning your skin, your throat so dry that every breath feels like fire, and days passing with nothing to eat or drink? This is the unbelievable true story of Mauro Prosperi, an Italian marathon runner whose fight for survival in the Sahara Desert became one of the most remarkable survival tales ever told. In 1994, Prosperi entered the Marathon des Sables, known as the toughest foot race on earth, a 150-mile ultra-marathon across the Moroccan Sahara. During the race, each runner carries all their supplies, food, water, and equipment on their back while navigating the unforgiving desert terrain. The event attracts seasoned athletes and adventure seekers who are up for the challenge of a lifetime. The Marathon des Sables is not for the faint of heart. Runners face extreme temperatures, scorching heat during the day and freezing cold at night, a lack of water and nourishment, and the constant threat of getting lost in the endless dunes. These challenges test not only the physical endurance of the participants, but also their mental fortitude and willpower to keep going. The year was 1994, and the location was the Sahara Desert, a place where survival is a daily struggle for many. It was here that the Marathon des Sables took place, drawing athletes from around the globe. Among them was Mauro Prosperi, an experienced long-distance runner, eager to conquer this ultimate test of endurance. Little did he know the ordeal that awaited him. On the fourth day of the race, disaster struck. A violent sandstorm swept across the desert, creating a blinding haze that disoriented the runners. The storm picked up speed suddenly, catching everyone off guard. Visibility dropped to mere feet, and the wind howled like a wounded beast, whipping sand against Prosperi's skin, stinging him as if 1,000 tiny needles. He struggled to keep his bearings, but the storm was relentless. Then everything went black. When Prosperi regained consciousness, the storm had passed, leaving behind an eerie silence. Disoriented and alone, he realized he couldn't remember anything about the previous 12 hours. The last thing he recalled was the blinding sand and then nothing. Panic started to set in. Where was he? Where were the other runners? Had he been injured? He tried to stand up, but his legs buckled beneath him. Dizziness overcame him, and he collapsed back onto the sand, fear clenching at his heart. Was he injured? Had the storm taken its toll on his mind as well as his body? He tried to convince himself that it was just a trick of the mind, but the fear of being truly lost in the vast emptiness of the desert was a chilling reality. As minutes turned into hours, despair began to creep in. His body trembled not only from the remnants of the sandstorm, but also from the dawning realization that he might be completely alone in the unforgiving Sahara. The weight of his solitude pressed down on him like a heavy cloak, threatening to suffocate him with its suffocating grip. With each passing moment, the enormity of his situation sunk in. He was in the heart of one of the world's most inhospitable deserts, stripped bare by the elements, cut off from any semblance of civilization or help. The towering dunes seemed to mock him, their vastness a constant reminder of his isolation. Hope, once a flickering flame within him, now threatened to be extinguished by the icy winds of despair. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the dunes, Prosperi knew he needed to take action. The desert nights could be as perilous as its days, and he couldn't afford to waste precious time. Summoning whatever strength he could muster, he forced himself to his feet. With trembling limbs and a pounding heart, he started to walk, driven by the primal instinct to survive. Each step was a battle against the unforgiving terrain and his own weakening resolve. But he kept going, fueled by a desperate hope that he would find the other runners or perhaps some sign of life. The desert, however, offered no respite. The silence was deafening, broken only by the wind whispering tales of desolation and despair. The vast emptiness around him seemed to stretch endlessly, mirroring the growing hollowness in his stomach and the parched dryness in his throat. Hours turned into days, and the harsh reality of his situation began to take its toll on Prosperi's body and mind. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the desert into a furnace that scorched his skin. His throat was a raw, cracked cavern, making every swallow a searing torment, and his limbs felt heavy and unresponsive as if burdened by chains invisible to all but his aching muscles. He stumbled on, a mere shadow of the runner who had confidently entered the Marathon des Sables. His weight plummeted, dropping by more than 30 pounds in just a few days. His vision blurred, his lips split and bled, and his entire being screamed for water, for nourishment, for salvation. The playful mirage that had initially teased him with the promise of water turned into a cruel mockery, taunting him with fleeting glimpses of what he desperately craved. In the vast canvas of the desert sky, there was no solace to be found. The sun, once a distant orb, now loomed over him, an angry deity ready to smite him with its searing rays. The stars, usually a comforting sight, were hidden behind a thick veil of clouds, leaving him in perpetual darkness. Prosperi fought on, driven by a tenacity born out of desperation. His body was pushed to the brink, yet his spirit refused to break. Somewhere deep within him, a tiny ember of hope still flickered, refusing to be extinguished by the harsh realities that surrounded him. As the sun dipped below the horizon each day, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised purple, Prosperi sank to the sand, exhausted and defeated. Sleep came easily that way, offering a temporary escape from the hellish landscape that tormented him. Then on the 9th day, a miracle occurred. Spotting a group of people in the distance, he mustered the last of his strength and stumbled towards them. As they drew closer, his heart pounded with anticipation, hope surging through him like a tidal wave. When he finally reached them, they were shocked by what they saw before them. His clothes were tattered, his skin leathery from sun exposure, and his eyes vacant, staring into nothingness. But despite his emaciated frame, they could see the indomitable spirit in him, the will to live that had kept him going all those days. Rescuers were quick to act, rushing to his aid and providing him with water and basic medical treatment. From there, he was transported to a hospital where doctors worked tirelessly to bring him back to health. As news of his miraculous survival spread, the world marveled at his resilience. People who had never heard of the Marathon des Sables or the unforgiving Sahara now knew of the legendary race and the harrowing ordeal that Prosperi had endured. Upon regaining his health, doctors examined Prosperi, trying to understand how his body had managed to endure such extremes. His weight had dropped to just 77 pounds, a stark contrast to his usual athletic build. His skin was a patchwork of blisters and abrasions, testament to the sun's relentless assault. But perhaps most alarming were his vital organs, which had been severely compromised by dehydration. Yet against all odds, they had held on, refusing to give up. Doctors were baffled. How could someone go 9 days without water, food, or proper shelter and survive? What had kept him going when all hope seemed lost? They ran tests, consulted experts, and delved into the mystery of Prosperi's survival, seeking answers that defied logic. In the quiet of his hospital room, Prosperi grappled with the haunting memories of his ordeal. The sights, sounds, and feelings of the desert played on repeat in his mind, refusing to be erased. He tried to piece together the fragments of those lost days, but the relentless assault of the desert had left him with gaps in his memory that no amount of willpower could fill. The trauma of his experience was not just physical. His mind bore deep scars that were just as real and just as painful. The crushing loneliness, the gnawing fear of death, the searing thirst, and the agonizing hunger had etched themselves into his psyche, haunting him in ways he never imagined. Despite the toll it took on his mental health, Prosperi knew he was fortunate to be alive. He had stared into the abyss of death and emerged, bearing the scars but whole in spirit. He began to recount his ordeal to the medical team, hoping that by sharing his experience, he could help others understand the unfathomable. Each word was a journey back into the hellish landscape of the Sahara, bringing with it a fresh wave of emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. Yet he persevered, driven by a need to make sense of his survival, to find meaning in the midst of madness. As weeks turned into months, Prosperi began to heal both physically and emotionally. The medical team marveled at his recovery, noting his strength and determination in overcoming the odds. His ordeal had captured the world's attention, and he was interviewed by media outlets worldwide, sharing his story with humility and grace. Through it all, Prosperi remained resolute. He understood that his survival was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, hope can guide us toward the light. But the story doesn't end there. Despite the horrific ordeal he had endured, Prosperi's love for running and the Marathon des Sables never faded. In 1996, 2 years after his dramatic rescue, he returned to the race, determined to finish what he had started. The world watched with bated breath as Prosperi once again entered the starting line. This time, however, he wasn't just running for himself. He was running for all those who had shown him support and for the medical team that had brought him back from the brink. The Marathon des Sables is renowned as one of the most challenging races on Earth. Its unforgiving terrain, scorching heat, and relentless sandstorms test not only the physical endurance of its participants, but also their mental fortitude and willpower to persevere. Many who attempt the Marathon des Sables fail to finish due to injuries, exhaustion, or the harsh desert conditions. Yet Prosperi, undeterred by his previous experience, was determined to conquer this ultimate test of endurance. Throughout the race, spectators and fellow runners cheered him on, recognizing the courage and determination it took for him to return to the desert. He ran, he walked, he crawled, his body pushing through pain and exhaustion, refusing to yield to the challenges thrown at him. And finally, 4 long days later, he crossed the finish line. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing across the dunes as they celebrated the indomitable spirit of the man who had dared to challenge the Sahara and won. Prosperi's return to the Marathon des Sables was not just a personal victory, but an inspiration to all who witnessed it. His story reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit can triumph. His bravery and resilience continue to be celebrated, solidifying his place in the annals of sports history.